I want to start out with is that we have, in 2026, we elect a new slate for our board. And we are grateful that we have people who have stepped forward to run for our board in 2026. And when I call your name, what I want to tell you is that as a membership, you're not going to be voting in October for this slate. You're going to be voting in November. But we just want to announce the slate. So I'm going to ask for the people who are on our slate, if you would just stand. So first of all, running for president, I am running for president again, and thank you. I'm grateful to be healthy enough to do that, thank you. And for vice president is Betty Oliker. I'm going to ask Betty to stand. Thank you, Betty. And for treasurer, we have Heidi Flores, who has stepped up to be treasurer. J.R. Davis over here. J.R. is happy to retire from that, but he's going to be in the background, so he's not really retiring. He's just taking a step back, and as you know, he helps us all. And for membership, we have Gwen Blankenship. Please stand, Gwen. Thank you, Gwen. And we are so grateful to Donna Galius. Donna, please stand. Donna is our current membership chair, and Donna has been chairing it for 2 years, and we're grateful, Donna, for all you've done. She's been so. And for recording secretary, we have Karen Blanco. And where is Karen? There's Karen. So Karen stepped forward. She's our Americanism chair. She also writes our Globe articles. Now she's our triumvirate. She's now be recording secretary. So thank you. We'll be voting in November. Next, I want to acknowledge that we, for Prop to vote no on Prop 50, we have written 2,239 postcards to every voting Republican in Laguna Woods. I have a tray of the postcards right here. I mailed more than half of them yesterday. The rest are going out today. They're going to be going out to every Republican in Laguna Woods. We have about 5,000, but only 2,239 are registered. We got to get more, actually, actively voting. So we hope that more Republicans will register and vote. We got to work on that too, the voter registration. So if you help in this project, would you please stand? I want to acknowledge you. I want to acknowledge every volunteer who helped write these postcards. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It was an act of love for sure. Thank you. All right, so now it's about 5 after. We are going to video on the next portion of our meeting. We have, I'm going to have Betty come up and introduce Kira in a moment. But first, JR, we have a special tribute to Charlie Kirk that we'd like to play for you. And then we'll introduce Kira, okay? So I know you'll enjoy this.
Charlie always said that when he was gone, he wanted to be remembered for his courage and for his faith. Now and for all eternity, he will stand at his Savior's side, wearing the glorious crown of a martyr. Charlie loved life. He loved his life. He loved America, but most of all, Charlie loved his children, and he loved me with all of his heart, and I knew that. Every day I knew that. The evildoers responsible for my husband's assassination have no idea what they have done. They killed Charlie because he preached a message of patriotism, faith, and of God's merciful love. But they should all know this. If you thought that my husband's mission was powerful before, you have no idea. You have no idea what you just have unleashed across this entire country and this world. You have no idea. You have no idea the fire that you have ignited within this wife.
Oh, Charlie, you didn't deserve it. May God bless your family.
The cries of this widow will echo around the world like a battle cry.
People across the country are gathering, holding memorial services and vigils to honor Charlie Kirk's memory and his message.
To everyone listening tonight across America, the movement my husband built will not die. It won't. I refuse to let that happen. It will not die. It will become stronger, bolder, louder, and greater than ever. Charlie, I promise I will never let your legacy die. I won't. I promise I'll make Turning Point USA the biggest thing that this nation has ever seen. I love you, baby. Rest in the arms of our Lord as He blankets you with the words I know your heart always strives to hear. Well done, my good and faithful servant. Oh,
Charlie, you put all this together, my man. Let's hear it.
I am just humbled by God. That's all I can say. It's done. I want you to remember that we did not earn this. This is God's mercy on our country.
You saw the amazing event that was in Arizona to give him tribute. It was 5 hours. I sat there for 5 hours and watched the whole thing. It was incredible, wasn't it? That was in history. I don't think there's ever been a time when we had the president, vice president, the cabinet. It was really an historical event. And it just shows how one person, and as Todd so brilliantly said, he was brilliant. He's like a savant. He was a savant. And of course, he never went to college. I met him when he was 18. He was at a David Horowitz Freedom Center event that I was at. And he introduced himself to me, and David Horowitz wanted us, donors, to contribute to Charlie. He was just starting out. Little did we know what it would do. I mean, the impact, it gives me chills what it accomplished and it's going to accomplish. So I think it gives me heart. And Todd, you talked about your love for your grandkids. I do what I do for my kids and my grandkids, and I think everybody in this room does the same thing. So I feel so much more confident in the future with our kids. I think they're going to be immunized. Charlie immunized them, inoculated them against the horrible leftist, Marxist indoctrination that they're getting. So we can continue to pray for that and support TPUSA if you can. And anyway, that's my speech. Thank you. Okay. And also, vote no on Prop 50 in the next month. Vote early. Tell your neighbors. Talk to anyone you can. It's just common sense. It's not. This is what the Democrats are putting out. Stop Trump from rigging the elections. Is he kidding? I mean, Trump, they blame Trump for everything. He's not rigging the elections. The Democrats are choosing to do this. We are trying to get fair elections, and we're working on that. This coming week and another week, if you can go to the Board of Supervisors, we're trying to get rid of the Voters' Choice Act. That's the act that put mail-in ballots. So I've been working on that. So a lot of you have been helping me come to the Board of Supervisors to have our Board of Supervisors vote out this Voters' Choice Act. So I'll be sending out an email this week to remind you if you can go. We need a lot of people to show up. You see the impact when a lot of people show up to protest, so please help us if you can, okay? So now, without further ado, Betty Oliker to introduce our guest speaker. And I'm sorry we're running a little bit behind, but everything's important, isn't it?
Thanks, Pat. It's my pleasure to introduce Kira Davis. Kira is an author, podcaster, and opinion journalist. She can regularly be seen offering conservative opinions on politics and pop culture on major outlets and podcasts, including Fox News, Newsmax, and the Babylon Bee, where she has also appeared in several viral videos. Kira is an experienced radio host and is proud to be a part of the SiriusXM family as a guest host with The Patriot, where she has been honored to guest for Stacey Washington, Andrew Wilkow, and David Webb. Kira has also regularly subbed for the former leading talk radio program, The Dan Bongino Show, as well as various programs across the nation. With bylines in top publications like Newsweek, The Daily Mail, The New York Post, and Forbes magazine, Kira's voice has gone out to millions of readers and listeners across the globe. Once upon a time, she ran for school board and lost, but learned a lot about the dirty business of politics and the nastiness of teachers' unions. Kira lives in Orange County, California, with her family and a blind dog.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, Mr. DA, you did ask if there was media in the room earlier. I hope there is media in the room, but I'm off the record today, so you're good. Oh, and by the way, from now on, you will no longer be Mr. DA. You will be Pop-Pop. That's what we're... Pop-Pop. Yeah, but Pop-Pop. We got to give you a grandpa nickname. Sorry. No, but congratulations to you, sir. It is a wonderful honor. I look forward to it myself. I'm an empty nester. My name is Kira Davis, and a little bit about me. I grew up in Canada. I was the daughter of two godless hippies in the 70s. My father was American. My mom was Canadian. My dad left before I was born. And I lived with my mom in Canada. But when I was 11, I met my dad. He lived in Washington, D.C. And so I moved with him. And that was my first introduction to American life and American culture. And we lived in D.C. proper. Actually, we lived on Capitol Hill. And so I had a really great opportunity to experience D.C. in the 80s and 90s. When you could run around, I just ran that city by myself. I can't imagine at 51 doing that now in D.C. Maybe now, since Trump cleaned it up. But that was when I learned to love America, because after school I would go over to the Smithsonian and I would just wander around the Air and Space Museum. I'd do my homework in the botanical gardens. Back then you could walk up to the Capitol steps and you could sit. I used to sit at the top of the Capitol steps. We lived like 4 blocks from there. In the 80s, it sounds impressive, but in the 80s and 90s it was the ghetto. But I used to go and I used to look out over the mall as the sun would set. My father and stepmother were professionals. They weren't around very much, so I had a lot of free time. And it was there that I learned that this was a country I wanted to be in, that this is a country I wanted to live in. So I emigrated permanently at 18, but I wasn't a conservative. I was a default Democrat as a black woman and as a socialist raised by godless hippies. I was sort of a default Democrat. I got married and moved to Gary, Indiana with my husband, which is where he's from. And his father, pastor of 45 years, Pastor Vic Davis, no relation to JR, that we know of. I'm going to find out. I'm going to dig into the family tree after this, JR. Victor Davis was the first black man I ever met who called himself openly a Republican. And I thought that was very interesting. And he would always challenge me on my political views. I had a lot of them. And he would always challenge me, but we would always have good-natured discussions. And he just really made me think. And we went into ministry together. We opened an after-school program in Gary, Indiana for young kids, K through 8, to give them access to the internet, tutoring and mentoring services. Gary, Indiana's largely poor, largely black. So this was our service to the community. And it was there that I got to see how all of the policies that I supported my whole life, how they worked up close. And I got to see that they don't work. And it was a real eye-opener. And that was my journey into conservatism. That's what really, and once you start seeing that you're wrong about one thing, you start wondering, what else am I wrong about? And then one day you're listening to Rush Limbaugh. That's a little bit of my journey, but 15 years ago, my family and I had the pleasure, the honor, to move here to California. And it was rough. That was a tough sticker shock to go from the Midwest, where my home was worth $65,000, to Orange County, and we've already talked about the prices here. But it was a privilege because we were offering our children a better life, more opportunities, and we were getting more opportunities for ourselves as well. And over that 15 years, I've sat alongside you all and watched this state go to hell. And it doesn't match what I see with my own eyes. Even when I drive, I'm from Ladera Ranch. I live in Ladera Ranch. It's a beautiful neighborhood, and it's quiet. And my kids grew up running the streets. And no, I don't lock my door sometimes if I am not thinking about it. I'm not going to tell you where I live, but but it's that kind of place. And that's the Orange County is the California that I see. Orange County is the vision of California that I think most people in America have when they think about California. And there's a reason why we are the most coveted county. We are the jewel of California. So I know we're going long today, and I don't want to keep you, but I do want to run down 3 pillars that I think are really important to winning back this state for good, or at least for the foreseeable future. And if you're here, so you're in the activist class, you probably already know these, but I want to inspire you to go out and take this message out to people who maybe haven't heard it. I think the first pillar is pretty obvious. It's education. In 2022, I ran for my school board. My son was a 2020 graduate. He didn't get a graduation. I was pretty bitter. Then they were trying to keep my daughter out of school, trying to force her to get vaccinations. And then some trans stuff came up, and I thought, this is entirely too much. My school board is out of control, and I need people on my school board who think like me. And the only way to guarantee that people on the board think like me is to elect me. So I ran, I lost. I got my butt handed to me by the unions. I'm still salty about that. And there were definitely some shenanigans at play in that election, but I learned a lot. I learned how much the unions were willing to do to steal my kid, to steal your kid, to steal your grandkids. I have a daughter, a teenage daughter. The unions followed me around while I was driving my daughter around to events. They would call the police on me. On me, a suburban housewife, you know? But I would have a campaign event and the sheriff would show up, and the sheriff didn't want to be there any more than I didn't want him to be there. But I realized then that they have a huge stake, not in the education system, in your children. That's what they want. It's not just the levers of power. Of course, there's a lot of money in our education system and interesting things, you know, that can be of benefit to you. But more than that, what they are stealing is the future. I just want to give you a couple of numbers here. A third of our state budget goes to education. That's $177 billion as of 2022. That's 1/3. I know you've probably all had opportunities to talk to our young children. Do many of them sound like they have received $177 billion education? We're last in everything. We're last in every outcome, but first in spending. Now, I want you to compare that to healthcare. It's the only other industry that outranks education at $182 billion of our budget. All right, transportation is $52 billion. Pensions are $70, and $82 billion in interest. So, all that to say, they put a lot of money into education. Why? Because your kids are the future. Your kids are power. That's why they start teaching your kid in kindergarten that they can be a boy if girls can be boys and boys can be girls. They got to get them early, and we're seeing the results. We're living through it right now. 60 to 75 years they've been educating our children, and what are those children doing now? They're blowing up the streets. They're setting stuff on fire. They're baked in assassination culture. And we thought, well, you know what? It's public education. All right, well, it's inconvenient that the liberals are in there, but we have the Constitution, and we'll go do our own thing if we have to. We'll homeschool, we'll go to private school. A lot of us gave up on public education. And we're paying for that because the majority of students are still educated in the public education system. So we have two choices. We can eliminate the public education system. I'm for that. But I don't think that's realistic. I think the other thing we need to do is to take it back over. That's why it's a pillar of taking back California. You need to educate your voters. They've been educating their voters for 75 years, and the results speak for themselves. The purpose of public education should be to educate patriots. It shouldn't be to it should not be to raise your kid to get a good job. That's a great side effect. But for a government to be involved in education, it has to have benefits for the government. And the benefits for the government are that, supposedly, that you are raising patriots who will carry the message of your nation into the future. As Todd said earlier, for decades to come, when we aren't here, the liberals, the progressives rather, have known that they've been planning for times when they aren't here. I'm afraid that too many Republicans only care about times when they're here. We need people with vision. This is why I love Donald Trump, because he has vision. He's thinking far. He's going to be dead when a lot of the results of what he's doing now really come to fruition. He'll be dead. But he has vision. And that's what we need, people with vision. So we need to take over the education system here in California. There are different ways to do that. Of course, we've got policy. If you want to get involved in policy battles, I know you guys here at the club are always keeping abreast of bills and things going on in Sacramento. That's a battle that always needs to be fought. But as far as clubs, local clubs like yours go, I firmly believe that every club should adopt a school board candidate in an election cycle. When I was running, I have to say, it was really hard to get support, not because people didn't support it or were mean, not at all. It's just people didn't know you were there. It's a smaller office. People sort of think of school board as like PTA mom. You were on school board. It's not just for PTA moms. It's brutal. It's brutal. It's brutal. It's pretty brutal. We have to send people in who are going to do the job that we want them to do, and we have to be deliberate about it. It's hard to raise money when you're at that low level of a candidate. It's hard to be seen. So I encourage the clubs, particularly if you have someone in your club who is running, pick a candidate, adopt that person, and then make that person your project. You're going to go walk for them. You're going to raise money for them. You're going to highlight them at your club every month until they win. You're going to invest in your school board, because even if you don't have kids or grandkids in school, the school board is a feeder. Again, I'm looking at this guy over here. It's a feeder, right? You go up the ladder. It's where you start. You go up the ladder. So they've got a bench that's always churning. We don't have a bench. We need a bench. People that, when the one class goes through, you've got the class behind them coming up. They're already trained. They already know what they're going to do. They already know how they're going to attack. I think if every Republican club in California adopted a school board candidate, we could take over every school board in this state. I truly believe that. And you watch the levers of power in Sacramento shift when every school board is Republican. Let me tell you, they're already nervous. That one of the reasons they put so much effort into my race is because I am a member of the media, right? I actually got some calls from some school board members. We're a little concerned about you, Kira. What if you get on this school board and then you start writing stories about all the stuff we talk about? I said, oh, well, I'll always follow the law, of course. But if you're not doing anything wrong, there's nothing to be worried about. But of course, they were doing stuff wrong. They're always doing stuff wrong. Education is, I think, the main pillar of when, I think this is a plan you could replicate across the country. Education, we've got to start educating patriots, educating voters. So it does matter what's in that teacher's classroom, and it does matter what's in your kid's library, and it does matter if it's just one boy on your girls' volleyball team. It does matter. And the left will try to tell you, oh, well, you're just making a big deal out of nothing. And they've been gaslighting us with that for years. And now it is a big deal, so it's time to start making a big deal out of the little somethings. All right, pillar number 2 that I think is vital to winning back California is, of course, voter integrity. That's a big one here. I came up personally against it when I was running in 2022. And we all know, I don't have to rehash this part for you. We all know the problems we have here. And Pat talked about the Voters' Choice Act. This is a big deal. We need to get out of this. The Voter Choice Act is, you know why you don't go to a precinct anymore, right? You know why it takes us 1.5 million weeks to count? We don't have precincts. It's 4 or 5 Joe Schmoes at the registrar's office, you know, counting millions of ballots, counting dogs, and who knows what else. We know that voter integrity, being able to rely on the truth and value of our vote is very important. So we need to get out of the Voter Choice Act. There are, I think there are 42 counties across the state that have this act. We're one of the only ones that has the opportunity to get out of it now, this fall. Everybody else has got to wait. Theirs isn't coming up to like next year or 2 years. We have the opportunity to get out of it now. This is a big deal for Orange County. If we get out of this, we get to set the standard. We get to be the first domino. And think about it, Orange County, we're famous for being the first domino and the last domino. That's why all the politicians come here for our money, right? They love our money, but a lot of them don't want to hear our voices. This is a pet peeve of mine. Judy knows. Orange County doesn't have any Orange County like news hub. We always have to depend on LA and San Diego, and I always get resentful about that because everyone comes for our money, no one comes for our news. And we got a lot of news happening here. We have a lot. So the voter integrity piece is going to be a huge one. I see you guys are already working, the Prop 50 stuff, you guys are already doing your thing. So I don't have a lot of suggestions for what you should do there. Keep on doing what you're doing. But my mantra is get in where you fit in, right? It's all hands on deck time. Everybody's got a job to do. Everybody has something they can do. And it might not be running for office. Hopefully it's not. I think there's very few people should run for office. You should be very serious about it if you're going to do it. But don't think that if you're not running for office or you're not like me, you're not on Fox News, that you can't do anything. Right where you are is valuable. In fact, it is the most valuable. And in fact, that is pillar number 3 for me of winning back California. You. Everybody has to decide. What can I do? And everybody does. We're no longer in a time where any of us has the luxury of going home, closing the garage door, and pretending the outside world doesn't exist, because the outside world has now come to us. We can no longer avoid it. Everyone's got to get in the game. What do I mean by that? I met a woman at a conference once. She came and bought my book, which I will have for sale on the back table there. It's Drawing Lines, endorsed by Dan Bongino, right on the front, my good friend Dan. She said, I am a librarian in a high school in Portland, Oregon. Seattle. 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. And she said, it's a public school, I can't take any books out of the library, and you can imagine what kind of books are in there. But I can put anything I want in there. So what I do is I travel to conservative conferences and I just buy all the books from local authors or new authors, people I've never heard of. I just buy their books and I put them in the library, and then I host a discussion group every week, once a week, for any high schoolers that want to come in, and we'll pick one of the books and we'll talk about the topic of the book. She's like, I only have like 1 or 2 students. That's amazing. Something very small that she is doing right where she is Is she going to get on Fox News? Probably not. Is she going to get a big award? Probably not. Are people going to throw a parade for her? Probably not. That's not the point. The point is that she's getting in where she fit in, doing something right where she is. In fact, that's what a lot of my book is that. It's not just inspirational words, although I have some inspirational words in there. It's also, here's what you can do where you are right now. As we've talked about a lot today, our children are under fire, our grandchildren are under fire. It's their futures that are at risk. And everyone needs to decide what they can do. I mean, you'll die for your kids, right? Raise your hand if you die for your kids. Yeah, you take a bullet for your kid? Well, that's easy. Actually, that's an easy answer. That's a no-brainer. Of course you'd die for your kids. Me too. Would you go to a school board meeting for your kids? Would you go observe the vote count for 5, 6, 7 hours at a time for your kids? Would you come to a Republican lunch for your kids? Would you go to a Prop 50 rally for your kids? Taking a bullet for your kids is actually the easiest thing you can do, because that's a no-brainer. But the other stuff we got to do for our kids requires a little more effort and forethought, and it requires us to come up off of our time and our money, and God knows we're all tired, and God knows we're all broke. But God also knows what he's given us here in Orange County, in California, in America. And what kind of citizens are we of this state and of the kingdom if we don't stand up for what is ours, for what has been given to us and promised to us? If we don't stand up for that, who are we? Everybody has to get in the game. I know everyone. I get it. I'm tired too. I'm so tired. But now's the time to double down. Now actually is the time to push harder. Now is the time to get less sleep. Now is the time to have less money. Now is the time, because they are losing. And the best part is they don't know it yet. So they're still making all the dumb mistakes because they're using the same playbook. They haven't been able to figure out that they're losing. We're behind the curve here in California, admittedly. We're about a year or two. I like to think generously a year behind the rest of the nation. Maybe 18 months. I believe change is coming, folks. I really do. But it's going to be up to you. It's not going to be one man who comes and saves us. I think we've figured that out by now. Or woman, or first partner, or whatever we call them, governor's wife. It's not going to be one club, one meeting, one bill, one amazing DA. It's going to be all of you together. All of us built America, and all of us will save America. And don't think that where you are is not good enough. You guys being here, just, the envelopes, the postcards. I know some of you might feel like that's nothing. That's not for nothing. That's over 2,000 eyes that are going to see, no, Prop 50. You care. And because you cared, someone else might care. It's those little things. You don't have to change the world. Just change your mailbox. I want to close, and if we have time or you want to, I'll take questions if you want. But I want to close with a reading from my book. This is a quote from my father-in-law, Victor Davis, Pastor Vic Davis, who's my biggest fan and my best friend. Is really one of my favorite people. And he lost his 2 eldest sons about 27 years ago, my husband's brothers. All 3 of them were in a car accident, and his brothers were killed. And so naturally, my father-in-law and his beautiful wife, Faith, had to navigate that. And I asked him to write a little bit for the end of my book about his life, because the other thing about my father-in-law that was interesting is that he's a survivor of abortion. He was born in 1942. and his mother had 7 children. A single black woman had been left by her husband in 1940s Michigan. She didn't have much, and she thought, I can't have this baby. And she tried to abort him, but it clearly didn't take. So when he was born, she named him Victor. And then he married Faith, which I think is the best, Victor and Faith Davis. So I asked him to write me a little piece in my book, to end it, about what it means to live a life and what your impact can be just right where you are. And this is what he had to say. Reflecting on how the experiences of our lives, like drops striking the water, impact shorelines beyond our ability to comprehend. While we began in separate circumstances, Faith's birth nearly resulted in her mother's death, and as a result, her mom named her Faith. My mother successfully aborted a male child, only to shortly thereafter find herself pregnant with me. And being so despondent, she attempted to abort me. However, somehow, I was able to be born, and she named me Victor. Years later, as teenagers, we met and fell in love, marrying at the tender ages of 16 and 19. And they're still married, by the way, 65 years. Being young and foolish, we managed to hurt and wound one another, and even separated for a brief period. However, there were powers at work in our lives we were unaware of, directing and guiding us to fight for our covenant relationship. We repaired our relationship and marriage and went on to have 3 sons and a daughter. And during this process, we gave our lives to Christ and surrendered to the point where I felt the call to be in the ministry of the gospel. Because of our early experience of allowing our marriage to become another black failed statistic, Faith and I felt called to give ourselves to strengthening other struggling couples. And this resulted in numerous marriages, individuals, and households being saved with generational impact that is still being realized even today. Another example of the ripple effect was seen as we tragically lost our oldest 2 sons in an automobile accident. Michael and Scott, whom my son is named after, were 30 and 25 years old, both married with lovely wives and 5 children between them. As painful as that experience was, my wife and I can look back and see how the Lord used this incident to radically change us from being a single family focused on ourselves and our plans and our desires to see the enormity and the significance of the family of God and the family of believers. So many people, so emotional. So many people from all walks of life helped us eat the elephant of hurt and pain we found ourselves facing. Each one took an appropriate bite of our all-encompassing grief and left us with just enough for us to live through. Thus, this tragedy not only impacted and shaped our lives, but also changed and continues to change the lives of others every time they face difficulty or share our loss with others. And I end the book with this. Faith and Victor Davis have 4 children, 11 grandchildren, and so far, 16 great-grandchildren. They will have children, and their children will have children, and their grandchildren will have children, and on and on. Which one of them will become a leader, a great artist, an inventor? Which one will find the cure to the incurable? Which one will be the person who will save or love the one who will find the cure for the incurable? We have no way to see beyond this moment in time, but we have so much proof. Even the smallest actions among us can reverberate beyond what our mortal minds can imagine. That thing you've been holding back from, perhaps because you're too scared, or perhaps because you think it's pointless, do it anyway. Throw the pebble. Draw the line. One small act can ripple throughout the ages. But what if you decided to make it a wave? Thank you. I will be available at the back for book sales and pictures. God bless you and God bless America.
Thank you so much. Oh, well, I don't know about you, but I'm just so uplifted by hearing from Todd today and now hearing from Kira. Pop up. Beep, we're going to sing God Bless America to close, but I neglected to say our next meeting in November is our third annual Veterans Celebration. Our veterans will have a complimentary lunch. We did not put it on the flyer because it goes around the village, and I just think it's better that we do it by word of mouth, through our email, and through our membership. So if you know a veteran, please let them know and bring them, okay? So thank you. We ran a little bit over, but it's so important. And please bring your name tags back and give them to Patty and Sherry as you're leaving. So if you'll join me, I'd like to lead us in God Bless America. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairie, to the ocean, white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home. Everyone, if you would bring next month, if each of you bring another guest, we'll have double the people. So remind it. Give other people the opportunity. God bless you all and have a great month. And vote early and tell your neighbors.